JD Pickell joins us, of course, the host of the Hard Count there on 3. JD, always a pleasure, sir. Hope you're doing well.
Dude, I'm doing phenomenal. Happy Friday. What a lineup, too. I mean, I'm batting right in between Big Mike and Peter Burns. Are you joking? Like, what a launch pad, boys. I'm fired up to be on with y'all.
Well, I mean, definitely a downgrade once we go from you to Peter, though.
Yeah, I mean, that is not my assessment to make, but I am honored you said that.
JD, somebody we were talking to here in studio right before you hopped on. I got to ask, who is Cornell's rival in the Ivy League? Because I've done a lot of different shows, and me and Dallin Cuff do shows. He was a guy that played basketball for Columbia. I've had great teammates that have played in the Ivy League, and there's always like that one team that every Ivy League school just does not like.
Yeah, we're kind of the bad boys of the Ivy League. I'm not going to lie to you. We don't like anybody. Nobody likes us, and we love it that way. I think on paper, we share a state with Columbia. So the Empire State Bowl is what we play at the end of the year when you battle for the state of New York, which is, it gets ugly, boys. You think Auburn, Alabama gets ugly. This one is there's no love lost. We got SAT scores being thrashed. We got trust funds being talked about. But I will say this: anybody in the conference, we all just kind of hate Harvard, Yale, Princeton because they're the most pinkies up operation of the whole. They like to throw their name around. When we all know you get into school there, they grade you on a curve, and you can just ride that all the way to graduation. We actually have academic integrity over at our school. But I hope that answers your question.
No, it's actually perfect. And gosh, now we've got to rethink a lot. So my oldest son's going to be a sophomore. He is a large human being. He is like almost 6'2", 250. I think he's got a real chance to play some college football. And my wife, his mom, gets mad at me because I'm like, ever since he was little, I've envisioned him playing in a winged helmet, but not for Michigan, not for Delaware, for Princeton. But you just maybe changed my mind there with the way you said the pinky up, because look, I can't have a tagline of too gritty to be pretty and then have a pinky up son.
I'm so glad you're saying it that way, and I'm so glad that you've already mentioned Princeton in that context. Listen, you don't want your son to go to school and have a college experience in Princeton, New Jersey.
Mm-mm.
I mean, that's not nobody's talking about their memories out. I mean, also, I'll say this too: there's no Greek life there. They have eating clubs. You don't want your son talking about eating clubs as a college experience. You want him talking about being upstate in the orchards at a school with a dairy farm. That's, I think, more than the too gritty to be pretty mantra for you. So we'll talk off the air. We'll get an NIL together, and we'll get this thing. We'll make this thing happen.
Look, fair enough. One of my favorite teammates ever played at Cornell, so I can certainly get behind that. Eating club. I'll have to text you about that. I don't know what in the hell an eating club is, but I'll text you. I'll get that information. Of course, JD, wanted to have you on, talk a little LSU, talk a little SEC. But like before I, throw any thoughts into your brain, don't want to cloud your judgment here. Your initial thoughts on this 2025 LSU football team.
I love this LSU football team in 2025. And that's not just because I'm on y'all's wonderful program right now. It is genuinely a thing to me where last time we got to talk, Jacob, together on another show that you have rolling, I was just telling you, like, the longer we go into the offseason, the more I'm looking at LSU, and I'm running out of reasons to not like them. And I understand there's the offensive line that, you're just kind of wait and see about a little bit when you lose a Will Campbell. And I know there's a little bit of hey, how do the portal pieces fit together? But, like, on paper, and the offseason is played on paper, I fall more and more in love with LSU every day. And I will say this, too, because we get a lot of pushback on our show around Brian Kelly, and I can't imagine the same for y'all. I can't imagine anyone in their right mind is saying a negative word about that man. But if they are seeing him as maybe a reason to not be successful in 2025, I go back and look at the course of his career, and it's like, one, winning a national championship is really freaking hard. They only give out one a year to one of 130-plus teams. We're at 136 now, so that's the first part. The other part is he's coached over 20 years and won north of 70% of his games. Doesn't feel like he's the problem if that's the metric we're working with. So I love LSU. I love the roster. I love Nuss. I love all that.
I think the difference this year is going to be like actually having depth, because like LSU's had top line talent. We could go with Jaden Daniels and Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. Like, we could give you top end talent, Will Campbell, like you just mentioned. But the problem, I think, has been you're so paper thin in some of these positions. Like one injury really caught. Like even last year, like you have a guard, Dellinger, go down in the A&M game, and it was like doomsday for you. Like at a place like LSU, like you got to be able to have another guard that can go in there, and it's not something that's a blaring just deficiency for you. So I think what they've added in the portal has created some great competition as well, because even those portal pieces now on the offensive line, they're not guaranteed to start because the players that were brought in through high school recruiting, they knew they had to kind of raise their level of play. And then they played this, air quote, bomb squad that they had to put up against Baylor in a bowl game, played really well against a pretty good Baylor team. And so I think just having more bodies that you can count on is going to help LSU this year.
Even just the awareness to exactly what you just said, go through a season, realize, hey, what we had in place wasn't good enough. So it felt like to me, Jacob, that they were a team that decided to not just participate in the portal, but actually go win in the portal.
Yeah.
We all have those classes where it's like you get credit for speaking, and you raise your hand. It's like, oh, you answered a question. Good for him. Like they went from doing that to now actually making study guides, passing tests, and doing more than passing tests, doing the extra credit. And so now they got a top 2 portal class according to our metrics at On3. And I think that's going to be a massive part of this. One more thing I'll add too, Garrett Nussmeier being in a situation now to where just mentally knowing what he's walking into when he walks into a semi sort of playoff situation in the month of November, early October, like when he goes and plays against Alabama, even when it was at home, that was his first time having to deal with that kind of pressure. That's not to say that it got to him or didn't get to him, but now he knows what that feels like. I think that's only going to lead to a better performance from him on the field.
This does feel like the year of the quarterback in the SEC. So certainly Garrett Nussmeier is right there at the top of that conversation. But you look at DJ Lagway, you look at Lenora Sellers, you look at everybody that's coming back. I mean, the unknown of Arch Manning, but you got Diego Pavia you could throw into that conversation who might not get the headlines. Mateer coming over from Wazoo and what he did in his career going to Oklahoma. Like from top to bottom, this is one of the best years I can remember in the SEC. And what's funny about it, JD, is the teams with the questions are like Alabama and Georgia.
Yeah. And like you said, Texas, like the best rosters have sort of this unknown at quarterback, which to me, I think you look across college football even. Like you said the SEC, and you're absolutely correct. And we're looking, too, at Ohio State, looking at Oregon. I mean, Penn State has the most proven thing at quarterback, and we're still not sure if they can beat a team with a logo of any substance. So I think going back to the SEC, what you just said, that to me makes this extremely intriguing, like you mentioned, but also I think it just continues to favor LSU because they are the best combination right now in my mind of what you just said, top tier roster plus a proven commodity at quarterback, and then the opportunity across the SEC of we don't know exactly what we're getting from Gunnar Stockton, exactly what we're getting from Arch Manning. And so all that to me builds into this idea of I think LSU will be playing in Atlanta for an SEC championship on conference title weekend. I really do.
Yeah, one of those quarterbacks that you were mentioning across the country, LSU is going to face in week number 1, Cade Klubnik. I mean, last year certainly took a lot. I mean, just continued to take big strides. I mean, leaps from what he was the year before. And it was probably a little bit unfair, the expectation that he had thrown on him when he was a young football player. But, I mean, last year really showed what he could be, what we all thought he was going to be. And you talk about marquee matchups up on the blinking lights right there, LSU, Clemson, their version of Death Valley, prime time. It is going to be – I know Texas and Ohio State's going to get all the conversation, game days there. But if you're giving me a game, and not just because, I'm going to, be there calling the game, whatever, you're giving me a game that I would watch from start to finish in week number 1, how can it not be that game between those teams and those two quarterbacks?
Oh, I mean, in terms of impact, that might be the one when it comes to fan base vibes. That will be the most impactful because, I mean, if Brian Kelly loses a week 1 game again, and he put a pretty solid fist to that table in Vegas last year, I should say, in week 1, he may Bills Mafia this whole thing if they lose again. I mean, it may be top rope onto the table, crack that thing. And I mean, I'd be here for the content that would provide. But no, I mean, also too, if you're Clemson, exactly what we're saying with LSU as to how much they have via the portal and the roster and the quarterback. Like, it may not be so much through the portal, but Clemson has the best returning production, the most returning production in all of college football. Like, if there's another team up there with LSU saying, hey, this is our year, it's absolutely Clemson. And I mean, credit Clemson too for the way that I think they have kind of adjusted their approach as well. And that's not saying that Dabo's gone gung-ho in the portal or that they're, throwing out the biggest bag in NIL. But the thing that we've all been asking of Clemson for a while now, it feels like, is do you have guys on the outside that can actually separate and strike a little bit of uneasiness into the heart of a secondary? And for the longest time, that was missing. And that was what made old Clemson so good, is the Mike Williams, the Artavius Scott, and, you go down the line. Now you have, granted they're young, but a Bryant Wesco, a TJ Moore, you got the vet and Antonio Williams back. So there's a lot more names for Clemson now where I think they feel a lot better as to the formula they can actually play with. You mentioned Cade Klubnik. Give him a lot of credit, I think, nationally for just his resilience, because I think we see a lot of times quarterbacks play with a lot of expectations. They play too early, and then either their confidence gets bruised or they develop bad habits or whatever it ends up being. Cade Klubnik didn't have all the success in the world from the jump, but ended up being able to stay the course, develop, keep the main team the main thing. And now looking at a season where I think a lot of people will have him on, the Heisman watch list going into the year.
JD, I do want to bounce real quick to the Big 12. Last year, Arizona State, and what a great year in Cam Scatteraboo. Love watching that guy play, obviously. I mean, somebody that, he won the Meathead Player of the Year award on my other show, and so they're going to be without him. But the Big 12 is very interesting to me because I think they're going to have some really good football teams, and it's going to be a battle to see who wins that league. But I was thinking about you the other day, man. We had like 3 guests on my SiriusXM show, and they all were pointing to Baylor being potentially this year's Arizona State. So I know you've got something ready to go and wax poetic about the Baylor Bears.
Well, one, I would say, who has the worst odds to win the conference? Let's just bet them, because that was ASU a year ago,
True,
and so maybe we cash in.
Yeah.
But no, man, the Bears. I think doing this job at a level where we're talking about all the teams, which is such a blessing and a blast, like, has maybe soured some of that relationship in Waco for myself and the fan base. I want them to know I can't quit them. I wish I could. I can't quit them. And this year, you bring back Sawyer Robertson, their top 10 in returning production. Dave Aranda is the stoic of college football. Like, there's a lot to like there. And so I think what you just said about Baylor kind of being that sneaky, maybe a little bit lower or under the radar kind of team. I love the way their schedule works together, which is funny to say because you open with Auburn and Waco. Yeah. But we talk a lot on our show about teams that get to, kind of step under the heavy bar early on in the season. Right. I know y'all both played ball, so like whenever you're going to max, a lot of these different strength staffs will have you put something on your back before you squat that you don't actually squat with, just to like fire up the nervous system and kind of have you feel what it's like to have that weight on your back before you go a little lighter and squat it. Like, that's Baylor when they play Auburn early. That's Baylor when they play SMU early. That's Baylor when they play ASU early. And so if you can get out of that stretch with one loss and find yourself in a spot, or at least one Big 12 loss, I should say, and find yourself in a spot where, you got to work into compete for Big 12 championship, I'm believing. All right. Like that song in Shrek, man, I'm a believer.
Hey, and that's all you got to have is a little belief, just a little bit of faith there. So, JD, man, we truly do appreciate your time, know how busy you are. So thanks for hopping on with us and giving us a couple of minutes down here in Baton Rouge.